Good morning. This is Jody King with the Alaska Apex Accelerator, formerly PTAC Alaska. We finally moved to our new name as of last Friday, so we've been officially Alaska Apex Accelerator for an entire week now. So yay, today I get to show off our new logo and website and exciting stuff. So this webinar is on using BidMatch effectively. It's an introduction to the solicitation search software that our program has a subscription to. And so if I have to get heads up, if I'm still not used to calling ourselves Alaska Apex, so if I slip in and say PTAC instead of Apex, we're all one and the same. We've been talking about changing the name for a while, but I haven't got to officially use it yet. So I'm changing old habits, so bear with me. So our program, the Alaska Apex Accelerator, has a subscription with the company that provides our client resource management, that CRM database. And part of that is the BidMatch, the solicitation search software. So this is something that we offer to active clients for free. And I like to do this this webinar on a quarterly basis. One, to introduce it for those that have not signed up for this service of ours, and two, for those that might have but haven't really done anything with it or don't feel like it's benefiting them. So why do we want to use the BidMatch software? Well, we know that the federal government is going about obtaining what they need in one of two ways. They're either going to reach out to you, maybe a phone call, usually by email, and say, hey, we have this activity. Would you be interested in responding to a quote or supplying a quote? If yes, that conversation continues. They let you know, okay, this is going to be posted. The other option is where they simply post it, and then it's up to you as industry to monitor these postings, the websites, like contract opportunities, and then respond within the bid due date for these posted activities. So if we only know there's a 50-50 of finding out about it, it's either somebody's going to tell us or we have to find it, we can spend a lot of time looking for those potential solicitations. And that's where BidMatch can help you. What BidMatch is, it is a free, again, I like throwing that word out there because it is a no-cost free product that we offer, and it offers a daily email. So let's kind of dig into what we're going to talk about today, and then I can start showing you what all of this is going to look like. And for those that joined me right at 10:30, sorry, you get to listen to this again. So I'm just going to take a quick moment for any of you that's joining us that's new to who we are and what we do. So again, as of September 15th, we're now the Alaska Apex Accelerator, formerly the Procurement Technical Assistance Center, PTAC. We're just shortening it to Alaska Apex. It's, you know, shorter is better when you're trying to talk about yourself, get those acronyms out there. And we provide free one-on-one assistance with all aspects of government contracting. And like our webinar today, focusing on those funding solicitations, we're here to assist with you. The only thing I want to call out from this slide so I can move forward and talk about our content for today is just to point out our new website. It is apexalaska.org. If you're used to using the ptacalaska.org, that's still forwarded to the new site. And if you are joining us from outside of Alaska, or you're thinking about expanding your business, diversifying outside of the state of Alaska, and you're looking at other geographic regions, feel free to check out the other programs across the US, Puerto Rico, Guam, and now the newest, which is Marianas Islands. So we have our Association of Procurement Technical Assistance Center, and they haven't changed their name yet. So the aptac-us.org, right on the landing page, there's a US map. You can click on the state and you can see a listing of all of the other PTACs for areas near you, if you're outside of the state of Alaska, Or again, if you're thinking about expanding, I really recommend checking out multiple PTAC Apex programs. Find out what's going on in their backyard. Because while we all focus on the federal contracting arena, we are each experts on what's going on in our own backyard. So that's worth checking out, seeing what's going on in that geographic region. And of course, also our funder, which is the Department of Defense Office of Small Business Programs, has their site as well that has a listing of all of the Apex Accelerator programs, plus additional information posted by the Department of Defense. They have trainings that they provide to us as train the trainers. There's other things that you can access on their site as well. So here we are, more about us, but let's really get back to why we're all here this morning. So this is what we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about searching for solicitations. We already talked about why, because it's the majority of how we're going to find opportunities. Because if somebody doesn't tell us, it's up to us to find those opportunities. I'm going to talk about the BidMatch process. I'm going to show you screenshots of what it looks like, how to use it. And then we're really going to talk about creating a search criteria list, because this is the structure that makes BidMatch successful. And then we're going to talk about looking at a solicitation from more than one's perspective. We're going to talk about updating or initiating a profile, using contract opportunities to the best advantage, using the federal procurement data system to find those PSC, those product supply codes or product service codes, and then, of course, summarize it all. So just in case you missed it at the beginning, we're going to be doing a lot of live examples playing in contract opportunities and FPDS. So if you have an industry or an agency or something that you would like to see demoed for the search, feel free to put that in the questions box at any point now, so that by the time we get to that demo, I can do a search that's more beneficial for you directly than me just doing a more generalized, picking a random industry and going from there. All right, moving on. So when it comes to finding solicitations, it truly is a bit of an art. Crystal balls, dowsing rods, understanding how the agencies post, and knowing which posting sites that they use. So the FAR requires that if an agency is posting a solicitation activity or some sort of notification pertaining to a solicitation, and it's over that $25,000 threshold, that it shall be posted on the Contract Opportunities website, which back in the day used to be that Federal Business Opportunities. Now, there are other sites that agencies do use. For GSA, if you're a schedule holder, or for the contracting officers that are shopping off schedule, of course, there is the GSA eBuy site. And this is probably the one exception to the rule where a posting can just be on eBuy because it's geared for solicitation, or I'm sorry, for schedule holders, those that are already on a GSA multiple award schedule to shop. And so that is the one time where it might not be posted in Contract Opportunities. Also, any sort of direct 8A opportunities are also not posted. We'll see 8A competitive, but not necessarily anything that's going to be sole sourced through that 8A program. But for everything else, contracting officers are required to use Contract Opportunities to post, even if the post directs you to another website, such as Fed Connect or any of the reverse auction websites. So there are other websites that agencies do like to use, but your pretty much guaranteed go-to point is going to be that Contract Opportunities. So knowing how to use that site and then having a means of looking for these opportunities daily is what makes a solicitation search software a time-saving tool for you. So as I mentioned, the BidMatch subscription software that we offer is based on a daily email notice. Let me rephrase that. So the software itself goes out on a daily basis, and the search bots go through multiple websites, all of the federal websites, state, for whatever state geographic area that you've selected, local, such as city of, or in our case, village or state, borough, county, but it goes out to several hundred different websites. And based on your search criteria, it filters through and finds out saying, hey, you might be interested in these activities, in these articles, these notifications. And an article is anything that's new, that's posted, and it's all going to be pertaining to solicitations, special announcements, award notifications, pre-solicitation notices, anything that's new that day that fits within your search criteria. So you get a daily email, and it looks something like this, less the highlighted circles and sections that I want to call out. So you get a daily email. It says, hey, we found this many new articles for you. It gives you a brief synopsis. You can see what the titles. We can see the circle, the numbers and the letters here are these products service codes or federal supply groups. If it's a letter, it's a service. If it's a number, it's a supply. So we can kind of see a quick designation of how that's identified. We get to see the title. And of course, there's several links where we can then follow this back to the website to find more information. So BidMatch is a web-based software. So there's multiple, anywhere it's linked, you can click on My BidMatch. Each individual that signs up for an account will have their own personalized BidMatch profile. This one is just for the PTAC Apex search profile, where our only keywords are Alaska. So we have a big variety of things that you can see here in the example. But the goal again is to have something that's really tailored to you to help benefit you. So here's my daily email. I can skim through it. If I see something of interest, the best way to make use of this is then you can either click on the date or you can click on your home page, which will list all of the dates. So if we just click on this first BidMatch or either one of these, next it's going to take us to the website for your profile homepage, and it's going to list out, we can see the activity by date. Now, one thing I do want to call out, if by chance there's zero activity, you will not get an email. So if you're going multiple days without an email, if you have booked your BidMatch profile homepage, you can always click on that bookmark and go back and say, oh gosh, a bunch of zeros. And we'll talk about that here in just a minute. And then you can go through and click on it. The nice thing about the solicitation search software is that we have access to your profile. So this is something that I can pull up through our CRM software, and I can go in and click on it through your client profile, and I can take a look at and see what type of activity you are receiving. So if there is something on Thursday, September 21st, one of these 34 articles is something you're really interested in and you want to have a conversation about it, you can let me know saying, hey, I found this on BidMatch in this date. I have questions. I can go in, I can pull it up, I can see what you were looking at without necessarily having to search through whichever database where the activity was posted. So it's really nice. It also means I can tell if you all are accessing your BidMatch profile beyond just seeing the email, if you're actually going to the website and if you're going through and you're looking at the dates and looking at the activities. So we can get an idea if this profile is actually being read by you, if it's benefiting you as our active client. All right, so we clicked from the email, we clicked BidMatch, we can see the dates. If we click on the date, here's kind of what we're looking at. So you can see this is from yesterday. And again, it's our profile. And as you can see, the keywords, it's just Alaska. So it means we're going to get a lot of miscellaneous and wide variety. So this is how the site is laid out for you. So listing of activity, and you can just see the items 1 through 22. It is filtered by listing all federal solicitation announcements. then awards, then special announcements, and then any other items such as these Pentagon news briefs. So this is one way that an agency can push information out. Like a great example of that is Della Simmons, the small business professional on JBER, the Joint Base Elmendorf-Richardson. Whenever they complete their procurement forecast, they post it on contract opportunities. So it goes out under one of these special announcements. So that's how they're using to push that information out. So we see federal first, and then we go down to what is called state and local under the purposes of the software. So for us, it's going to be Alaska first, and then it's going to be sorted by state and then down to borough, county, or city, depending, of course, on what you've selected for search criteria. So we can see our federal, and then we can see the state activity. We get to see these federal service groups, federal supply groups, and again, letters service, numbers are supply. And one of the attachments that I have given to you is a PSC and FSC code where it gives you the breakdown of what is A, what is B, and also the PTAC Apex. I haven't changed the logo on that sheet, come to think of it, but our activation sheet also has what do these stand for. And so you can use either one to say, well, what the heck does B or M or U actually mean? I know Y is construction. So we can see, and again, we have the title of the activity, and we can see what keywords were used to pull this together. Let me give you a better example. Okay, so here again, we can see that having a wider selection of keywords, search terms, NAICS codes, PSC codes, any of this that helps define what type of activity should be pulled for your search. And you can see, looking at this sample, that we have a much more consistent search grouping as opposed to here where it's kind of all over the place because our only search criteria is Alaska. Oops, going the wrong direction. Here you can see that we have a much more streamlined classification of what we're looking for. And so we can tell by just keywords, this engineering company, engineering NAICS codes. So how the search works, it is a two-pronged search using keywords, NAICS codes, the PSC, Federal Supply Group codes, geographic regions. The software has to find at least two of your search terminology to help filter and tell you which activity is meeting your search criteria and to provide you with a list. And the entirety of this webinar is really all about this, building that good search criteria so that these daily notices have value. All right, so we've gone through, we're taking a look at, we're scanned from the email. And again, if you just click the date on the email link here, it will take you, it'll skip this and take you directly to the date that you've looked at. All right, so let's talk about, hey, I'm really interested in one of these activities. You can see that these are all underlined, they're hyperlinked. We click on this and it's going to take you to that description page. So here we have the title, we have the classification, we have a brief description, point of contact, we have the synopsis as it was posted on Contract Opportunities or another website, and we have the link to the solicitation activity itself. Now, we can try reading this within the BidMatch realm. To make the best use of your time, what I recommend is to go through and as we find titles that might interest, click on that link, just read these first couple of lines, the agency, the title, and then to immediately click on the link. Don't even worry about trying to read it here, but go right to that posted website and bookmark it, or in the case of Contract Opportunities, click follow. And so that all of those are found when you sign into your workspace. All right. So what are we looking for? Why are we using this? How are we defining what it is that we want to see? So let's talk about why we're looking for solicitations. And I'm probably jumping ahead because I'm sure I have a screen already on this. A lot of us get so focused on looking for the next thing to bid on that we're not looking at the software for the value, its full value that it can offer. Because we want to know what's going on. We need information. We need that big data. We need to know what's going on out there so we can make that best business decision of how we're going to spend our time. Are we just going to chase bids, or do we need to know what is the agency doing? If we are a supplier or a support agent entity, we need to know which businesses are getting which contracts or interested in what activity, because that gives us a discussion opportunity. Maybe we're providing material support or managerial support or training or financial services for those activities, and we need to know who's even interested in it. So there's a lot of things that we can do. So with that in mind, thinking about what is it that we're really wanting to find, let's talk about building some search criteria. So I have been using this same screen for, gosh, a really long time, and it's a pretty good and complete list. I double checked all of the links. So if you download the slides, you'll get all of these links to be able to build the search criteria. So we're going to start with keywords. And the software is set up where it can use single or multiple grouped keywords. And they build in a wildcard to kind of help. So if we're defining our business, if we're too restrictive, if we think I only want to do tile flooring and I only want activities that where it says tile flooring, we may be missing out. We might have not enough. So we don't want to be so restrictive when we're doing our search for a profile, but we want to be broad enough that we're getting value out of this. So we're going to use keyword combinations. So let's use the word computer, for example. If we use computer as a keyword, it could be anything from actual computer hardware sales, computer networking, computer programming, computer software, software subscriptions. So we want to think about how we're using those keywords, how are we linking them in small phrases. But this is going to be our number one definitive process for figuring out what it is that we're looking for. We can figure out keywords by looking at NAICS codes description. NAICS codes, and you can see the website here, is that North America Classification System, North American Industrial Classification System, but that's how it's defined. So for example, anything that starts with 23 is construction, where starting with 54 or 56 becomes that service. Anything in that 9,000 becomes governmental. We can see there's a hierarchy of how those NAICS codes are built. And so we can use those NAICS codes, but we can also use the descriptors in the NAICS codes to help fill out those keywords of how we're defining. And unlike SAM, where you're using NAICS codes, and then in the dynamic small business search, you're using keywords to kind of define your business. When you're doing a search profile, you want to expand upon and think about what data do you need to discover, what activity where there might be possible subcontracting opportunities. But again, if there's a particular agency that you really want to focus on in a geographic region, we could use those agency codes, those DODAC, the Department of Defense Activity Address Code, as a search term to find out what's going on. So we know JBEAR is that FA 5000, and it's that specific contracting office for the 673rd Contracting Squadron. If we're looking for the Corps of Engineers, and I never quite remember, it's like WK 11, or I'd have to look it up. it's been too long since I tried, but it has that fifth specific character that is always that physical, that contracting office at that physical location. So we can find that information. There's a lot of things that we can look up. So NAICS codes, those supply classifications, product classifications. We can also even do search based on our competitor's unique ID, that UEI, and we can look at their SAM or DSBS profiles. So if we go into SAM or DSBS and look up their business name, we can get that UEI, and we can see, well, how are they defining what they're doing? And if we have their UEI, we can even go into that federal procurement data system and see what codes have they received contracts under. And we'll see more of that when we talk about looking at our different, the search examples. All right, and of course, the federal organization codes in SAM, and those are really helpful to use as well. So this is the bulk of when I say we have that two-prong search activity, that this is some of the examples, and there's a few more things we could add, but this is the primary that we're going to use to build those search criteria. And just kind of as a side note, don't forget to research the agency websites and district websites for keywords. How do the agencies define what keywords are they using when they're writing articles to talk about what they're doing, what they're focused on? And that is a great way as well to make sure that we're using the language that that particular agency is using, that they're focusing on within our search, because we might see it again when we have the synopsis, that same type of terminology. All right. So, and I kind of started this discussion, but why are you looking? So again, it's more than just looking for that next bidding, that next job. We want to expand that search criteria, those federal organization codes, those keywords, the DODACs. We want to look into and pull information that's going to help us determine it. One, is this an agency we want to do business with? Where's the opportunity? If we're thinking about diversifying, we can add those additional keywords to your profile and expand that beyond your immediate search, so that it pull more information. Marketing the data, awardee information. Right now, at end of the fiscal year, a lot of the notices are just that, award information. So if you're a marketing firm, maybe you want to go find those awardees and talk about, you know, congratulations on receiving that contract. How are other agencies finding out that you have these awards? How are you promoting your success history? So there's information that we can use to then use these as icebreakers when we're reaching out for potential networking, building other contracts, other business opportunities, other than necessarily directly with the federal or state contracts. We can look for agency data. So again, if we're trying to do research on, you heard me mention JBEAR or the Corps of Engineers, we can use those DODACs, and we can find just by searching that specific DODAC, we can find a pretty active list of who the current contracting officers are and their contact information for that particular contracting information. All right, one second. So this is kind of a sneak peek behind of when we're starting or updating your BidMatch profile. So since Alaska Apex is the subscription holder with Outreach Systems for the BidMatch software, all of the changes, initiating a new profile, updating profile, all of that does need to go through our office since we are technically the subscription holders. But it's a pretty easy system for us to use and update. And you can tell just by how we set it up, the type of information that we're really focusing for. So one of the things is BidMatch can be sent to more than one person within your company. We can have, I don't even know if we have a limit. I think I've done up to 5, maybe 6 people. You know, if you have it across multiple, if you have lots of branch offices, or want to send it to multiple people to take a look at, so we can do multiple. pretty much I set everything up now is that webmail, web access, and we get to choose. The default is all domestic sources, plus then we have the foreign trade opportunities. And here, this is kind of that list. And again, there's a couple of documents that I've uploaded on that gives you this same information where you can see the services, the letters. Again, you know, we saw stuff where I said Y was construction, structures, facility, and I realized this is a pretty small screenshot, so it's hard to see. So again, grab those documents that I've uploaded to the GoToWebinar software, and you can see this where it's a lot easier. You can print those out and take a look at it. And it's worth having because it's beneficial to look at how are these classified. Because when we get into the PSC codes, we're going to see a mix of a letter and then a numbering system, and it's really based on this structure as is. But you can see we have a wide range to choose when we're defining where we are wanting to search. And next we have our geographic regions. We can just do it Alaska only. Usually when it's a new profile, even if you're only interested in Alaska, what I recommend is let's pick a few states, since our contracting cycle is so pronounced here in the state of Alaska, especially if you're in the construction, engineering, design, where we really have these seasons of activity where you might not see that as much as you would down in the lower 48. So if we are getting very few or even days with 0 notices, we need to be able to decide, 1, do we have a bad search profile, or 2, is it just really quiet? And if we're looking at that activity just from the PTAC, we can see that that first part of October, we're going to see a drop in notifications. The fiscal year end is closing September 30th, and we're already down to that last week, where right now is just already the identified contracts that are finalizing the last of the awardee. The federal government, they've got to close their books, they're closing the ledgers. So it gets this quiet period. Also, if anybody's been following the news, we're looking at budget issues and potential continuing resolution, and of course, this discussion of governmental shutdown, because the agencies can't start buying next year's funds until the budget's approved. The funds have been released at that congressional level and then are rolled out from that headquarters down to each of the regional. So sometimes we can see a delay depending on that activity. So I'm going to use construction again. We might not see any new construction activity until that second quarter, you know, in January, with the goal of getting all those projects awarded by April. So once the construction season fully realizes itself, everybody's already got their contracts in play and are ready to roll. So we have these weird cycles up here, where in the states with the broader road system, we might not. So if we're not getting good results, we might want to add a few states other than just Alaska, say Washington, California, Oregon, and to see, are we getting the right type of activities? And if we are, we know we've got good search criteria, and then we can always drop your geographic restriction back down to Alaska. There is a nice feature in the software where I can pick by regions, Northwest region, everything west of the Mississippi, international. And I didn't print that list just because it was difficult to get a good screenshot, but there's a lot of opportunity. And there's a lot of flexibility at looking at. So if you're thinking about expanding into a new area, we can easily add that geographic region to your profile. It's just a matter of me clicking some buttons, and within 24 hours, you're starting to gather data for that new area. And then last but not least, this is where we're ending those search terms, those keywords, NAICS codes, supply codes, and any additional comments that I might want to add. If you have something that's unique or you're looking for specific things, I can add comments to outreach systems to the individuals that are building your search profile. So that was getting started. A lot of behind the scenes, but things to think about, because if this is how we're building it, and you can see that they're giving quite a bit of space to add, these should be things we're really highlighting. So it's time to update when. So as I'd mentioned, if you're not getting any or so minimal, then BidMatch isn't necessarily beneficial for you. And so in this case, it's time for us to have a discussion. One, is your profile really, really thin and too restrictive? Are we missing out on opportunity because we haven't been generous enough in those search parameters? Or by chance, do you have an industry where there isn't a lot of posted activity? It's possible that you are in a newer, oh, not of course, I'm not going to think of any examples off the top of my head. Well, let's talk about training. So yes, we'll see training opportunities posted, but often depending on the type of training, maybe it is management processes or rethinking management efficiency, uh, building business communication, building, coworker efficiency, any sort of efficiency-based training, we might not see something posted. That might be something where, depending at the level of the agencies, where they're deciding that they're going to incorporate to revitalize their agency's function. It could be a regional manager. It might even be a specific office location manager for a particular branch under the overarching agency. It might be all the way up at that headquarters level, again, where they're going to roll it out. And in that case, or if we're talking about contracting officers getting that continuing education training, those individuals might be searching for that in a different means other than just posting. So there are a few industries where just waiting for activities to be posted, we're missing a lot of the discussion. It's going to require you to be a lot more interactive on building those relationships. So too few, not so good. We can start by looking at, well, what is your profile? What do we need to add? Based on this little example here, you can see we've got NAICS codes in a lot of geographic area, but I only have a couple of keywords. So we can tell this is, a moving company. So there's some things that we might need to add to try to expand, or is it that just posting solicitations for moving companies isn't how that business is being conducted, and we might want to go back and do some research. The flip side of that is if you are getting too many notifications, nobody wants to slog through that, and it becomes a feeling of too much, that feast or famine. Too many activity means we really need to rethink what we're looking for and filter a little bit, even if it's about pulling back that geographic area, because that can really impact those number of notices. So like I said, when we're starting a new notification, even if you're only interested in Alaska, let's add a few states to test our profile. But if we're getting 200 to 300 a day, that may sound exciting, but oh my gosh, that is simply too much of our time spent filtering through that, even if we think it's pre-selected. So we don't want too many. We need to get the right kind of information. So too little or too many articles, time to update. If we're not finding the right solicitations, well, then we want to look at our keyword combinations and figure out how we want to redefine. Remember, I used that word computer. Maybe we need to say computer programming or program design, website design, not just use the word design. So we can think about how to tweak our profile so we start finding the right solicitations, because that's even more frustrating than too few if you're getting so many and none of them are even close. We can add or remove geographic regions. So in case of someone that's getting all zeros, I would say let's add a few geographic and see if it's the profile itself, or if, again, maybe we just need to rethink this process. We can add points of contacts. So people come and go through companies. You might update an email address, then if you don't let us know, well, your BidMatch starts to bounce. So there's information here for who do you want to receive this, time to update and check, well, if you already have BidMatch, who is receiving this now? Do you have people getting the emails that are even no longer with the company? If your profile's not been updated within 2 years, this company outreach systems are very proactive on refreshing their software and making it as efficient as possible. And we need to stay up with that. So we need to make sure that we are keeping that profile. If it's working beautifully, fantastic. If it's, if it's not broken, let's not try to fix it. But in most cases, there's plenty of room to tweak, because again, the more effort we spend on building a good search profile, the better results that you're going to have. And if your profile has too few keywords, NAICS codes, PSC codes, we might get back to over here where we just don't have enough information. All right, so I have about 15 minutes left, and this is where I really want to talk to you about finding that search criteria. So if somebody would be so kind as to throw some search terms, an industry, a NAICS code, something in that question box to give me a start point. Oh, thank you. Okay, so here's a question here, and we'll get this, and then I'm going to open up SAM and we'll start digging. It says, if I would like to download historical data for all manufacturing contracts in the U.S., say in the year 2017, is BidMatch a good search engine for this purpose? If not, which website is better? That is a fantastic question, because the only thing I didn't mention is solicitation search profile, the solicitation search software value in a data mining concept. So solicitation search is more going to be current activity, because the software is looking from today, what's new today, and what has been posted today. So it is going to be that snapshot of what's going on for the here and now. If we're looking for historical data, then the Federal Procurement Data System, and we're going to play with that in a second, is where you're going to go for historical data. You can pull some historical data off contract opportunities, but that's more about looking at the solicitation, trying to find the solicitation, than necessarily the award activity and any modifications to the award moving forward. So yeah, historical data is definitely fpds.gov, that Federal Procurement Data System. Anybody else want to give me some search terms? All right, so let me pause here for 1 second. Get back to my arrow, and I'm gonna hop out of here. And all right, let me open. And I apologize for not doing this before the webinar. Let me go ahead and sign in. And you can search contract opportunities without signing in, but if you by chance find something that you want to follow, you do need to sign in to be able to tag a particular opportunity. All right. So when you sign into SAM, you land in the workspace, and mentioned that you can follow opportunities. And if you're looking for them, if you click on in your workspace, you click on those binoculars, then it's going to pull up any opportunities that you've tagged that you've been following. But for now, let's talk about search. So when we're using SAM to search for data, and if you remember my little handy list, I'll pull this over for a second, of information that we can use for search terms, NAICS codes, keywords, then we can filter by all of that same data that we are using for search purposes. So let me talk real quick about using SAM specifically for searching to build search criteria. In that case, we don't care about looking for a specific activity. We want to think about what we want to look at. And this is the best way for playing with NAICS codes and keywords. So when we're looking at NAICS codes, again, use the census.gov website. And I want to show you something that when we are doing partial keywords, we can see the structure. We can do the same thing in SAM. So if we're looking for search terms, first of all, always select your domain, that contract opportunities. And then we're going to come in here and you can see the various things that we want to search. So we can say any words, all words, or exact phrase. So if we want to test out something like I had mentioned, such as computer program, you can see how it puts it in quotes for us because we told it exact phrase, any words, all words. And we can see that change here. So we can play that way. And of course, you can click the little X to remove anything and hop back from the beginning. We can come down here under the product or service code, and we can start getting into NAICS codes. So sometimes we get focused on using a specific NAICS code, 541113. Oops, let's see if I can actually, here we go, 10, offices of lawyers. Maybe we're an attorney and we're looking for opportunity. And we've used this particular NAICS code to help define our industry. This is the industry in which we are searching. So we can come up here and do a specific, and we can see that NAICS code. Well, if we're starting with NAICS codes to build our search criteria, we can start looking at terminology that fits under that realm, such as litigation support, strategic consulting services. That would be a great key phrase if that is, again, whether you're training or providing management support, etc. So again, we can see litigation support. Well, already I'm seeing litigation, legal related services, post-legal. So from that, I am feeling like those are some great keywords that I should be adding. Attorney services, just from the title alone, and I haven't even begun to go in and look at the notice itself. So if we come into this one where we say, okay, attorney litigation, that's a great term, we can come down here to the classification and we can see how is this further defined. So we've already used the NAICS code, so we have that, Office of Lawyers. So again, we could use that phrase as a search. But here now we start looking at these product codes. So this R418, support professional legal service. These become really handy when we are looking backwards and we get into the federal procurement data system. Now I'll kind of come back to this. I just wanted to get it to load. So again, we can start pulling data information. And remember how I mentioned about DODAX? So we can see here, Department of Defense, here's our agency, sub-tier Department of Navy, NAVSUP is the command, and all the way down to Command 2 in Norfolk. So now we can take a look at this notification, and right up here to that year code, that is the DODAC for this contracting office. So if we drop down to the contact information, here's the physical address. So if we use that same DODAC that I highlighted, we're always going to get this contracting office. Okay, let's go back and do stay on task. So we're looking for search words. Come on, Sam. Okay, so I'm going to come down here, get rid of this, and let's talk keywords. So say we're a janitorial firm. And again, if you guys want to give me search words, if you're not an attorney or janitorial, let me know. So say I don't know which NAICS codes. NAICS codes are a great starting point. I just want to play with my keywords. What type of things am I getting? Now, one of the things that you can do to help filter some of the noise is we can come in here to dates. And if we just say updated within the past month or past year, that's going to really drop off a lot of the older activity. And so that might help keep us what's current, what are we seeing under janitorial services. So the interesting thing with facility maintenance operating is even in the case of a continuing registration, continuing resolution, let me get that correctly, and even if we're at that final short of a government shutdown, the agencies are allowed to start the spending process for operating requirements based on the previous year's budget. So janitorial services, facility maintenance, snow plowing, and often in October, that's when we see all of these type of contracts renewing. So depending on, and I can even come in here, because if I don't want to look at awards, I can even come in here under my type, not set aside place performance, notice type. Here we go. And I can just filter out and just say solicitation or combined synopsis solicitation. So I get, what I'm doing is I'm removing all of the award notices just so that I can see how is that word janitorial. So I'm going to just start down the list, and I don't care about the where or when at this point. What I want to do is immediately hop to the classification, and I want to know, oh, here's that NAICS code for janitorial. Well, absolutely, I want to use this terminology. Here also for housekeeping, custodial, janitorial, look at those great keywords, housekeeping, custodial. I need to add that to my list as well. And then of course this PSC code, this S201, is fantastic because that's going to help define the subsets. NAICS codes can be really broad. So let's just say for engineering, let me give you a broader example. And I got to watch my time. Okay, so engineering 541330. So if I come in here in SAM, and let me get back to that search. I'm going to get rid of this. I want to go back to my NAICS code. And I said 541. And of course, this is where using these partial, when you're doing your bid match, you do need the full 6-digit. But if you're trying to figure out other NAICS codes, putting in partial, and you can see the hierarchy here of how it's built. And what did I say that was? 561330. Okay. So we're talking about how broad engineering services are and the value of taking the time to look up PSC codes. So I've just put in engineering. We can see I have 132 that were just solicitation, pre-solicit, or combined synopsis in the last year. So if we take a look at this, engineering, again, it covers a lot of information. You can see civil engineering, mining, robotic, structural, all the different disciplines. So when we're searching, we can start playing with, well, how are they coding it? What are these classifications? So if we're looking for PSC codes, if we're really trying to drill down to specific areas, we can define it with keywords, but we can also use these PSC codes in our search criteria. So let me show you the value of taking time to do this. And this is where I'm going to use the Federal Procurement Data System. So this is the historical data. And when you're using FPDS, in fact, just heads up, next Thursday, I'm doing a webinar on just this database and doing search from here. So I'm refreshing that. So feel free to sign that up for that Thursday. So if we decided we're going to use, and I didn't copy it, 541, 330. Okay. Just make sure I'm grabbing 41330. Okay. So you can see from here, it's going to immediately start. So with FPDS, as you're building your search criteria, it's building it here. So step 1, put in a single term. Step 2, I like to do is sort order descending by date signed. Again, because I want relevant data. I want information from the top. I don't want to look at stuff from 2006 or so. All right. So what I'm looking for is PSC codes. So we can see here all the contracting. We can see the agencies right here. We can see Department of Defense is the agency that uses that particular NAICS code more than any other. And we can even break it down into the Department of Defense down here, top contracting, Army, Navy. Okay. So when we're looking at PSC codes, we're going to start scrolling down, and well, here this particular agency hasn't even defined them. The other trick with FPDS, and I really will focus more on next week, at a minimum can come in here, and I'm sorry I'm kind of throwing this at you, but if we do the modification number and I set it to 0, again, that's filtering some of the noise. This is just going to be original awards. Because you can see from the listing, if it has any number in the parentheses, those are modification numbers. All right, so now hopefully I can start getting information. And that's really interesting. The one thing I picked, I am not seeing any PSC codes. Well, isn't that special? Let's change that. Let's hop back over here. Let's do construction. Nothing like trying to show an example and then not have it work well for me. Oh. Well, now we need to talk and find out why is this not working. Do you notice again? Oh, you know what? I'm being silly. I'm sorry, guys. Let me try this again. It's because it's not right underneath. It's over here. There we go. This is what happens when you're going to teach a class and you don't caffeine really well before the class. All right. Yep. All right. So sorry about that. Let me rephrase that. All right. So again, I'm going to advanced search. I want to select those NAICS codes. And you do have to do the full string 541330. Okay. Let that populate real quick. All right, so we're looking at engineering. So when we're looking at these PSC codes, we can start seeing where it differentiates. So here, architected engineering construction laboratories, C1DB, here's C1PA, architect engineering, recreational facilities, architect engineering. So anything that's starting off in this C is that architect engineering. And that goes back to those PSC code lookups when we were talking about here, let me grab this back for you, where you could say C was architect engineering services. You know, that's kind of hard to see. Okay, so we can kind of keep scrolling down. Well, maybe we're not an architect. So here's professional support engineering technical. So we can then kind of view and say, well, how are they defining that? So if we're engineering, but we're not architect engineer, we don't care about that. Maybe we want to add these. So here, again, support professional, or here's just straight photographic equipment accessories under engineering. So most likely mapping. Again, C, architect, but this is the best way. And I'm not even caring about what's been awarded or who. I'm just looking at how am I sub-defining this particular NAICS code for engineering services by looking at this PSC codes. And I did that simply by, from here, from that home page, throwing in a code. And then, of course, I added some filters just to get rid of my modifications, date signed, but really you don't even need to do that. It's just a matter of looking down for construction, and of course, sorry, I retweaked that, and we can see repair alteration Z211, J, maintenance, rebuilding, repair of equipment, plumbing. So even though it's under construction, here's equipment. So these PSC codes further delineate, and having this list and defining these can really be beneficial. So another question, does FPDS only publish contracts that are awarded or both awarded and non-awarded contracts? We might have to ask that question offline so I can get you to further define not awarded. These are all going to be awarded contracts. Not so much grant activity, but contract. And I'll talk more about that in the workshop next week. But if you want, you can email me that question and further define what you're saying for non-awarded. Okay, thank you. All right. So when we're looking for that, again, as we're building these search criteria, Keep a good list, track the information that you're finding, because you're going to use this constantly throughout, not just so much where we're looking for opportunity for purpose of search, but say that you find an opportunity and you're saying, oh, this is something I'm really interested in and I want to know the history. We can use some of these same search criteria and same search processes then to go into FPDS and look at that procurement history. So let me hop back over to the slides for a bit. So we kind of talked about searching in SAM, searching in FPDS. So again, it takes a lot of effort and search hundreds of databases, looking at contract opportunities daily, going to all the various states, procurement sites. Instead of spending your time and resource, allow us to provide that solicitation search software. Your time invested is getting that search set up, making sure that it's a good search, pulling the right type of data, and then let that software work for you. Don't forget, BidMatch pulls from federal, state, and local procurement activities based on your geographic area. It's easy to start, it's easy to update, just keep working with Alaska PTAC Apex site. If you're in another location and you just saw this and wanted to join, feel free to reach out to your the center. Maybe you have branch offices in multiple states, and reach out to that local PTAC Apex and see what they offer for solicitation search services. Some of the programs do charge, and we do offer that for free. We can only offer you one search profile per business. We do go through and inactivate. We do have a set number of subscriptions. So if we feel people aren't using them, I do go through and close out profiles that aren't being used so that we don't run out of open subscriptions for active clients. Review and modify your profile on an annual basis. Make sure it's performing as needed. If you find a solicitation that didn't populate in your BidMatch search, let me know. Send me that solicitation number. I can work with outreach systems to see what was missing, and I've done that before. I send them an email saying, hey, this is what they're looking for. What do we have in our profile that's either prohibiting that or is simply not capturing it? So that's a very interactive thing that we can do. Take time to build a good search criteria list. You'll use this over and over again. As soon as we start talking market research, it's that same core search criteria that you'll be using. And again, not all government purchasing starts with a public solicitation bid package. So just sitting there and waiting for opportunities to be brought to your attention, you really could be missing out on a lot of that conversation that's happening out there. And if that's the case, then I'd say schedule an appointment with us. Let's talk about your business specifically and how to better interact and build those relationships with the agencies. Build those relationships. And research the agency too. Where's the procurement office for your products and services? And maybe we can tweak those search profiles by adding the DODAX or by adding agency names to make sure that we're capturing more specific to that, if that is where you're looking. And finally, I apologize, I've run over a bit, but this is the PTAC staff today. Again, see, I gotta change that. PTAC Apex. Fortunately, we're in our transition still. I got to retrain the brain. But bottom line is, if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to us and let us know. I'm more than happy to schedule an appointment with you. If you are interested in getting a BidMatch profile started, we can either schedule an appointment or you can use that BidMatch profile activation sheet. That's purely optional. I use that sheet because one, it gives you what the codes mean, and two, it gives you a baseline of the data I need to start that profile. So you can complete that sheet and get that to me, and I can get your profile started. Or we can schedule an appointment and we can do the same process that you just saw in the webinar, where I go in and we look and build your search terms, and then we launch that BidMatch profile. Once you have an active profile, I like to meet with you again in about 2 to 3 weeks so we can see how that profile is doing, so we can tweak it and address it and better work it so it is beneficial. The software is only as good as the level of effort we use into developing those search criteria. Well, everyone, thank you for joining me this morning, this lovely Friday morning. I appreciate your taking your time out of your busy schedule to join me. If you have any questions after the webinar is closed, feel free to reach out to me. You're always welcome to reply to the webinar invite with any questions. If you were unable to download the handouts when the recording's posted, we will also be uploading the handouts. You can download it from the alaskaapex.org website, or you just, again, send me an email and let me know you need those handouts. Well, with that, I want to thank you everyone for joining me today. Hopefully this is a continued conversation down the road and that we can offer those BidMatch services to you. All right, everyone, at this point in time, I don't see any further questions, so I'm going to go ahead and close out the webinar.